Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of
the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, welcome to our meeting this Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026. We first need to know if anybody wants to remove anything from our consent agenda. If not, then what I would ask for, I've got to abstain for what's on our agenda as number 5, 7, and 10. So there'll be less back and forth if we can group those somewhere. So if we can move those to after our first item.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Alicia, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Putnam?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Otten?
Yes.
Aaron's?
Yes.
Landine?
Yes, motion carries. So first thing on our agenda is a motion to 50% cost share the Lincoln County Clerk of Court scanning project with the UJS.
Paul Anderson, Commission Administrative Assistant. We have representatives from UJS here, and they'll go over the ask and be available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. For the record, I'm Carl Thomas, Court Administrator for Lincoln and Minnehaha Counties. I've got with me today Madeline Neely, our Record Supervisor and our expert on records retention and disposal and maintenance and processing. And we've got Bryce Coomer, our Clerk of Court, who can tell you anything you want to know about what we've got now and where it is and what we've cleaned up. And then, of course, Judge Rachel Rasmussen is with us, our primary judge here in Lincoln County, to respond to any questions or fill in any gaps that I might leave. I should start off before I get into the records project, though, and I'll try to make it as quick as possible, but before I do that, I should thank Drew and the county personnel who worked with us so closely on the UJS security grant for the new facility. As you might know, there's a grant program available with state funds to fund courthouse security measures and equipment. And fortunately, we've been able to, or we anticipate being able to get about, Judge, correct me if I'm wrong, about $350,000 in state money to fund the security features of that new facility. So we certainly appreciate the county's cooperation there and Drew's work with us. Let me start really quickly. Let's see, how do I bring up the PowerPoint presentation? There we go. Thanks very much. Tech. It's always a challenge. There we go. Thanks very much. For those of you who've been over at the building next door, you know we've got a lot of court records over there. These three pictures are just some of the files and books and binders and other court documents we have. Some records have been accumulating literally since statehood, and so there's quite a bit over there. Again, I'll try to keep this brief, but just to give you a sense, we've got court files. We had or have docket books over there, those big books used in the olden days to catalog cases. We've got court reporter notes. We've got exhibits. We've got quite a bit over there. And of course, it's probably in all our interests to get that cleared one way or another before the move to the new facility.
Carl, where is this at?
These three rooms, Judge, happen to be the basement of the old courthouse next door.
Okay, that's what I thought. Thank you.
Right. Next slide. Could we do the next slide, or should I advance them? Okay, thanks. Okay. So I wanted to set the stage really quickly. Where are we? What do we got over there? And what's the county's obligation? There are the statutes, as every county in South Dakota knows all too well. State statutes make court facilities a county responsibility in South Dakota. So there are the two statutory references. I should mention too, because if I were in your seats, I would wonder, well, what about the Justice Center? The Justice Center purposely didn't include large paper file storage rooms for a number of reasons. First, as you know, very, very well, that's not an inexpensive facility. And it's not a good use of limited taxpayer money to essentially spend those sorts of funds to create paper file storage rooms or warehouse space. And so we never did anticipate that we'd store large amounts of paper in the new facility. Also, paper, as we all know, disintegrates. Court files are generally not written on parchment like the Declaration of Independence, and they won't stay around forever. And already, as you may recall from the Register of Deeds presentation on scanning a couple months ago, they're falling to pieces. It fades, just not a good long-term solution. And then, of course, retrieval of paper files is time-consuming and inconvenient for the public. And for those of us who remember, back in the olden days, public libraries used to maintain their book records and locations in card catalogs on little pieces of cardboard. You'd misfile one of those pieces of cardboard, or you'd misfile the book, and it essentially disappears. Good luck trying to find it in a records collection or a library of any size at all. And so, for a lot of practical reasons, maintaining paper files indefinitely just does not make a lot of sense and doesn't serve the public well. And then finally, and this is Madeline's area of expertise, records retention laws, rules, and state archives policies require us to maintain certain case file types for different periods of time. Some are shreddable, traffic tickets. Some we have to keep forever, adoptions, felonies, that sort of thing. And so over the court's entire collection, we've got an array of different retention types. But for this morning, for scanning, we're talking about the court files that we've got to keep forever. So what have we got over there now? The court staff, and Bryce can talk about this in more detail if you want, but the court staff has been clearing records and exhibits and other areas very diligently for quite some time. That file room that you see in the upper picture, that was the subject of that got wet a few years ago in 2021. Is John in the room? This is one of those areas where I feel bad for John because he worked so diligently to keep that building in good shape. And yet there was you may remember, some of you, that there was an irrigation system leak in 2021. The irrigation system ran all night, and eventually the puddle overtopped the foundation wall and wet a number of those facilities, which triggered a clean out in 2021. There was a prior boiler failure in the courthouse that triggered another clean out before that. So on purpose and by accident, we've actually done quite a bit of work cleaning things out. And then Madeline and her team have transferred a number of records, and especially docket books, to state archives pre-1921. Frankly, I don't know what's magic about 1921. Madeline, do you know why they?
That's what state archives wants.
Okay. For some reason, they picked 1921. So we've transferred as much as we can. We had 80 to 100 boxes already scanned in 2021 after that, the last Lincoln Courthouse flood. So, given all that, and again, we can go into detail if you'd like, but given all that, we've got 330 boxes left in the courthouse, the equivalent of 330 boxes. I keep talking about boxes. A standard records box is 1.5 cubic feet. We'll get quotes, we'll get price quotes, we'll get estimates in either cubic feet or boxes. We tend to think boxes because they come in boxes. They're not in boxes now. Some of them are, as you can see in that picture, but most of the court files are still on shelves. That 330 box estimate is actually taking a tape measure, measuring the stacks, and then calculating 1.5 cubic feet per box. Okay. So what do we want to do with it? Our scanning proposal is we scan all the remaining paper records and clear that courthouse. We're proposing Active Data Systems for a number of reasons. Active Data Systems is local. They've always worked with the courts really well. When I say courts, I'm not just talking Minnehaha, although they're doing Minnehaha now. They've also scanned for Brookings for the First Circuit, which is the circuit out of Yankton. And they're very expert in handling records that are really challenging, not just books, not just 3-ring binders, not just pictures. We're talking onion skin paper. We're talking litigation over land records with plat maps. We're talking about legal size. We're talking about, back in the days, some of you may remember, if you've seen really old court records, they would fold the court records into a 3-part, and you have to unfold them. Onion skin, legal, handwritten notes, grandma's will that was written on a placemat, those sorts of things. They're really good at handling all that stuff and meeting state records and UJS and statutory requirements on data clarity and margins and retention and formats for transfer to state computer servers. They've done all that, so we don't have to re-educate them and spend the money to do it. They're also local, so we don't ship the files anywhere outside the county. So what are we asking for this morning? Bottom line, literally the bottom line. Active Data Systems scans, and they're currently scanning for Minnehaha at $305 a box. That's everything, that's all in. That's, they pick it up, they scan it all, that they pay for the shredding. They handle, or they give us the files, the electronic files on either a USB card or a data drive or something like that, and then we transfer it to state servers, and they're done. So the total, if you do the math, comes to $100,000. The state is willing to cover half of it. Even though this is a county responsibility, we are keenly aware that the counties, as you all know all too well, are under a lot of financial pressure, and the taxpayers are under a lot of financial pressure, and we are very sensitive to that, and state court admin is too. And so they were able to identify $50,000 approximately to cover the cost of this project. And so we're asking today that the county consider covering the other half. Okay, last slide if I could. Okay, so if the commission were to approve this, or see it clear to allocate the funding, what are the benefits? And they're probably, you can anticipate what they are. Removes all the paper records from the old courthouse, leaving them no longer vulnerable to building failures. We wouldn't have to shuttle court records back and forth between the new justice facility and here, assuming that the court records stay in this building. Wouldn't be at risk. Transfers everything to state UJS computer servers, and the commissioners may remember that while county facilities, including storage, is a county responsibility, court tech is a state responsibility. So in other words, after this scanning project, it becomes a state problem. It becomes a state project, it's a state responsibility, and the county washes its hands long-term of storing all these records in statehood for good. So it eliminates the county cost and the taxpayer and the county's responsibility to maintain those records in the future. And then I've just got one more slide and I'll be done. 2021 building flood. Back in the olden days, I say olden days, I mean like 10 years ago, court reporters, some of you may remember, some of them used transcription machines that printed on what looked like adding machine paper. That's what mostly got wet, that and some jury records in 2021. So we lost a lot of it. Fortunately, court reporter transcription paper has a retention of 15 years. And a lot of the court reporters who used that paper had already been gone for 15 years. So this is another example, at least in part, of a clean out that we did kind of by accident, but it was helpful at the time. And then we also lost some jury records. You can see some jury records on the table in the foreground and the third photo, and the one in the middle, I think. Jury records also, fortunately, don't have a permanent retention period, so we were able to shred a good deal of those. So with that, I think I'm done. Judge, do you have anything to add or anything you want to cover, any gaps, and stand ready for questions?
Just a quick question. So once those are all scanned, like right now, if you go into like the UJS, the e-courts, it's 2013, I think, and back, if you request a file, they've got to go dig it out
Right,
and then scan it.
right.
And, okay. So will these all go into that UJS system or?
No, they
Okay.
won't, but the retrieval will be really quick. It'll be a matter of minutes instead of, well, you may have noticed in Minnehaha, sometimes depending on the age and type of the file, it'll be 2 or 3 days actually before we get it, if the offsite storage facility can even find it. And so, in this case, all the scanning is to PDF per case. scanned by case number and scanned by names, party names. And so the court staff will be able to bring it up for you in about a minute, rather than having to go somewhere else to get it or to dig it off the file shelves. And I'll be brief, but that retrieval and access question is a good question, because if I were a member of the public or an attorney, I'd want to know this. Active data scans to PDF. We transfer it to a state server on a server drive that is accessible to court staff. You may remember child abuse cases or child neglect cases. Right now, they're called ANNs, abuse and neglect cases. Prior to that, they were called DANs, dependency, abuse, and neglect. Prior to that, they were called CHS cases, child surrenders. Prior to that, some docket books, you open it up and it says case 1, case 2, case 3. No case type. I mean, now you know, we do county number, so the case number reflects the location. We do a case type, an alphabetical case type. We do the year it was filed, and we do a serial number. Older records, they didn't follow those conventions all the time. I mean, it changed over the years, and so Active Data is really good at handling those sorts of retrieval issues when we can't rely on a case number format. So they're really up to speed on that. But in any case, Commissioner, long answer to your simple question, but retrieval should be really fast.
And so just understanding it's our responsibility to provide the storage for these records in the first place. Who started this all and processed that the UJS would share cost? Was that you?
Yeah, just from my own personal point of view, I mean, I've been working with counties, and and the circuit's been working with counties long enough to know that it's always better if it's cooperative, if it's a cost-sharing scenario.
Agreed.
In Minnehaha, for example, I mean, a different scale, I know, but the project in Minnehaha that Madeline is working on now, I use my state budget to cover all the moving costs. In other words, the movers have to go get those about $150, $200 a month, bring them to the courthouse. Madeline's team processes them. We shred the stuff we can shred. I use my state budget to cover all the shredding costs, which is not insignificant because sometimes Madeline shreds literally tons during a month. And then Minnehaha pays for the actual scanning. So even in that scenario, it's a cost-sharing arrangement. Not the same arrangement we're proposing here, but it's still a cost-sharing approach, which I think is a lot healthier and more cooperative for lots of reasons.
Sure. Well, thanks for coming forward with it. I'm happy to see that there is a cost share. Other commissioners have questions for Carl? All right, if not, I'll open it up for public comment. Morning, Chad.
Good morning, Chair and Commission. Chad Skiles from Canton. I have a question that I think I know the answer to, but I don't know how much of the public knows the answer to, and it's probably a simple one. But my question is, as I was reading through this agenda item last night and kind of studying it, why is the county responsible for holding and storing state documents? I'm guessing it's probably because it's a state statute, it's the law. I'm assuming that's the reason. If it is, it's a simple answer back, but I think it's important for the public to know and understand why that's happening. Thank you.
Thanks, Chad. And you are right, it is a state
Statute.
unfunded mandate from our legislature.
Linda Montgomery, Fairview, South Dakota. This is another probably very simple question, but it's very concerning to me that we are shredding the documents afterwards. And I know this shouldn't be a thing, it's just, well, we got it on the computer. But we are at risk, of course, for things that will not always have the ability to access to our computers. EMP, things like that. To me, the risk, I know there's a lot of space and I know, but I keep everything. on paper, because the computers, they are at risk. Our internet is at risk, and we can go, Linda, no, you're got flowers in your head or whatever, but we are at risk. And so I worry about the shredding of documents. I know I'm probably talking to a wall, but it's very scary when we lose the paper that has all this important documentation on. Thank you.
Thank you. That's also addressed in 1621-4 legislature passed it, that the electronic version is the official record when it's available.
Thank you.
So, you bet. Anybody else? All right, if not, can I get a motion, please?
Move for approval, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, Otten.
I had a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, Alicia, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Putnam?
No.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Otten?
Yes.
Aaron's?
Yes.
Landine?
Yes, motion carries. All right, and then I'm going to turn the chair over to Commissioner Schmidt for our next items, which were originally 5, 7, and 10 on our agenda.
Terry, do you want to come forward and we'll bunch those together, but we'll take item 5 first?
Thank you, Commissioners. Terry Floyd, Highway Superintendent. First item I have for you is, we had our supply bed openings here about a week and a half ago. First item I have is crushed concrete. Consider a motion to award the bid for crushed concrete to LG Everest for $11 a ton. This was the only bid we received, so.
Okay. Anything else on that one? Do you have any public comment concerning LG Everest and the crushed concrete? Hearing none. Commissioners, any questions? If not,
I do. Can you tell me what you've paid for it in the past?
I think last year was, I think it was $11 a ton last year too.
Okay,
So,
so apples to apples,
yeah.
okay?
Yep. And the big thing with this is, there's certain times of the year where the availability of it is probably not as easily to get, just because whenever they do crush piles of it, usually, contractors go through this stuff pretty quickly, so.
And how much do you use?
We would probably get, again, depending on projects we do, because we use it around bedding for when we replace culverts, when we do roads, in the roads. Or if we have issues, road issues, soft road or something, we'll dig up a spot, throw some rock in the bottom, throw crushed concrete in it to kind of stabilize everything up. I'm guessing maybe 5,000 to 7,000 ton a year.
Okay, thank you.
any other questions? If not, I need a motion.
So moved, Otten.
Second.
And we have a second. Motion second. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Putnam?
Yep.
Public input.
Well, public input, we asked about, do we have to add public input twice? Okay,
Well, let's just do it.
yeah, let's just call it, we'll do it next time. Let's call the roll, please.
No, I meant the public input.
Oh,
Let's just ask.
okay.
If
Do we have public
somebody
in-
wants to talk, let them
Do we
talk.
have public input, on the motion to award this to LG Everest? Hearing none, any more commission talk? We have a motion and a second. Will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Putnam?
Yes.
Otten?
Yes.
Aaron's?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes. Terry, let's go to number 7.
Next item I have is consider a motion to award quartzite riprap to LG Everest. Class A is $31.55 a ton, Class B is $31.80 a ton, Class C is $35.55 a ton. And there was only one bidder on this one as well.
Any public comment on item number 7? Seeing none, any questions of our highway superintendent on number 7?
Same as last time. What did you pay last year?
Price is pretty much the same. We do, so the Class A and Class C, I believe we would have to get from Del Rapids. Class B, the one we use the most, again, we use this around structures, bridges, culvert ends, for erosion control. Typically, this is the price we pay. Now, this one here, Class B, we can get out of the Rowena pit, which is on the east side of Sioux Falls over there, so. And tonnage on this varies, the year of the flood, we went through a lot of this, putting it around bridges and stuff, so.
Any other questions? If not, a motion, please.
So moved, Otten.
May we have a second? Is there public comment on the motion? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Putnam?
Yes.
Otten?
Yes.
Aaron's?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes. Item number 10, Terry.
Number 10, consider a motion to award plant mix asphalt to Merlin Royce for type 1 at $66 a ton, type 2 at $67 a ton, and to Knife River for type 1 at $67 a ton, type 2 $68 a ton, and for fines at $100 a ton. Explanation on this one, Merlin Roy's plant at 9 Mile Creek, which is the new one, just off exit 71, County Road 270, County Road 110 down there. This will be our primary plant, because this one it would be very close to the majority of our hauls wherever we're paving. The reason I would like to award to Knife River as a secondary, and again, it's going to be awarding to Knife River as a west plant only, because if I have to go over to, for any reason, the 9 Mile Merlin Royce plant is closed, that's additional time and travel miles. That's going to be longer to go over to the east side of town than it would be to go to Knife River, and it's just going to be cost effective for the county, so. But I will reiterate that the 9 Mile plant for Merlin Royce will be our primary plant.
Any public comment on our highway superintendent's awarding to both Knife River and to Merlin Roy? If not, commissioners, do you have any questions?
Again, what did you pay last year?
Last year, I think we were about the same price. It was maybe 69 was the bid last year. So luckily, those costs have been kind of holding steady for the most part. I know there was a couple of years, several years ago, I think we were pushing 70, a little over $70 a ton, so.
Thank you.
And we do, just to FYI, I think we have about 12 or 15,000 ton that we have budgeted for this year to do. So.
One of the nice things, Terry, is that with the facility right in Lincoln County, it makes your hauls so much quicker,
Yeah.
cheaper. Everybody benefits from that, so. Any other comments for Terry? I need a motion.
So moved, Otten.
Motion made by Commissioner Otten and seconded by Commissioner Joel. Is there any public comment?
Already had it.
No, I took public comment on the motion, I don't know why we're gonna do public comment on, my gosh. Anyway, hearing none, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Putnam?
Yes.
Otten?
Yes.
Aaron's?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes, motion carries. And now, returning to the chair is our chair.
All right, so I need to circle back because apparently I forgot to have you guys do a motion and pass the
Yes.
consent agenda.
So moved, Madam Chair.
All right, can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Alicia, we call the roll?
Commissioner Putnam?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Otten?
Yes.
Aaron's?
Yes.
Landine?
Yes, motion carries. All right, then we're gonna move to a commission briefing on ambulance services sustainability. Betty?
I'm going to introduce Sharon.
Hi, Sharon.
Hi.
Sharon, welcome.
Hi, I'm Sharon Shantelson with Sage Project Consultants. First of all, Commissioner Otten, thank you very much for having us do this briefing today. Oh, whoops. Sorry. Just wondering how to move to the next slide. Oops, sorry. I'm really messing this up. Oh, there we go. So, again, Commissioners, thank you for considering options to improve public safety and emergency medical response in Lincoln County. As you know, you have a great weight on your shoulders. Lives depend on your leadership. EMTs and paramedics are your first responders on the very worst day of your spouse, your children's, and your parents' lives. It is an honorable profession, and I am thankful you're here today to support them and the public safety of Lincoln County citizens. I have a contract with the South Dakota Department of Health, EMS, to provide technical services to ambulance services in South Dakota at no cost to them. We are not a national firm. We live in Sioux Falls and in South Dakota and are currently working in 35 services across the state. I am currently working with Yankton County, the city of Watertown, Meade and Ziebach counties, Moody County, and Custer County, as well as the city of Lenox, on equitable funding solutions. I've been working with the Lenox area ambulance service to find solutions to address the EMS crisis that they're currently serving. And so at this time, they do not have a fully staffed model like, for example, Sioux Falls does, or other ambulance services in South Dakota. So we have been investigating what are some solutions, but first I want to put this in perspective for all of you. EMTs are paid, or the paid volunteers are paid $3.25 per hour when on call. They're paid, the EMTs are paid $15 per hour. Paramedics are paid $23 an hour. I want you to put yourself in that position of getting paid $15 per hour to put your hands on a body that's not breathing, bleeding, or very, very ill. And in turn, they go home and they really struggle with budgeting their own household income. They also experience vicarious trauma and burnout. They work in very dangerous conditions, including exposure to bodily fluids and physically violent patients. And it is back-breaking work. So the value proposition that the City of Lenox has developed is due to increasing call volumes and responsibilities, the existing team members are stretched thin. For these reasons, the Lenox Area Ambulance proposes transitioning to a fully staffed model with 24-hour, 7-day-a-week coverage. Currently, the service is staffed from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. with that, remember that $3.25 on-call personnel providing coverage during overnight hours. Lenox, bottom line, Lenox, the city of Lenox is no longer able to shoulder the costs of providing ambulance services beyond its city limits. Without funding from surrounding areas, the city has announced its intent to cease services outside of Lenox starting in January 2027. EMS is not an essential service in South Dakota. No entity is obligated to provide it. And it is not fair for the Lenox citizens to pay for the entire cost of the ambulance service when more than half of, or more of their calls are outside of their city limits. In South Dakota, there are two funding options. There's equitable funding within the ambulance jurisdiction, and then there's an ambulance district option. When I work with ambulance services across the state, some counties and cities will tell me right away that they do not want to consider an ambulance tax district. However, they do recognize that an equitable funding model is essential to provide EMS services to their citizens. An excellent model of this is in Moody County, where the county commissioners, the Flanger City Councilors, and the Flanger Santee Tribe came together to close the gap between expenses and revenue. In addition, the Avera Flanger Hospital is contributing as they recognize the value of transports from Flanger to Sioux Falls and within their assisted living facility and their hospital. In addition, Minnehaha County provides funding to their rural ambulance services in Del Rapids, Garrettson, and Humboldt. And just last week, I worked with Eastern Meade County and Ziebach County and the Cheyenne River Tribal Council, IHS, and the Bureau of Indian Affairs supported the City of Faith Ambulance Service as over 50% of their calls are on tribal lands. It was a great show of support by the Cheyenne River Tribe. Other counties see an ambulance district as a sustainable and reasonable solution. In fact, I'm working with Eastern Custer County, and the citizens have come forward to the county and said they are advocating for an ambulance district so they can receive better and reliable response times. So Western Custer County already has an ambulance district, but Eastern does not. And they would like to have that same type of service. Again, just a level setting. Current jurisdiction is, and we can go to this map. So this is the current jurisdiction if you follow the green lines around here. It is Lenox, the city of Lenox, Chancellor, and you can see Chancellor has opted to be entirely within the Lenox ambulance jurisdiction. The city of Worthing, part of Turner County and part of Lincoln County. The city of T, this is an example of an expanded ambulance jurisdiction map. They have spent the last year doing a study on their options as they do not have, they are not formally within the Lenox or the Sioux Falls jurisdiction. They currently are served by both jurisdictions. They have several options on the table which they're investigating, one of which is to join the Lenox jurisdiction. But that's not what's on the table today, but it did figure into some of the economics and some of the pro formas that we developed so that we could inform the city of T as well. So if there are two types of services that ambulance services fall under, basic life support or BLS or advanced life support. And as leadership, you guys really should know the difference between BLS and ALS support. BLS will provide transportation to an emergency room when the situation is not life-threatening. Paramedics in an ALS service can monitor your heart to determine what type of event you are having. They can provide medication, including narcotics, and they can start an IV and administer fluids along the transport route. So there's a big difference between a BLS service and an ALS service. Just so that you know, you have, in Lincoln County, you have 3 ALS services within your jurisdiction, Lenox, Canton, and Sioux Falls. I did not put, and I should have, Commissioner on Beersford, because I didn't realize how far they went into Lincoln County, but they're a BLS service too. And as you can see in Turner County, although there's 6 ambulance services, Lenox is the only ALS service. So this is really important. So strategically, when you're looking at public safety within the Lincoln County and as leaders of Lincoln County, you should look at where your ALS service is. So again, these 5 services in Turner County, and they recognize this, are all BLS services. Hudson is a BLS service, Beersford's a BLS service. You have Lenox over here covering this side here. So what happens when you have an ALS service, for example, the first time I went down to Lenox to visit in person and went to the ambulance station, I was there for about 5 minutes and they called, there was a dispatch call, and Parker needed mutual aid. They had a critically ill patient. They could not, by themselves, serve that patient to get them up to Sioux Falls alive. So they called Alan and Amy, who are sitting here in the audience. They intercepted them on the highway. They got into the back of the ambulance, and they were able to keep the patient alive until they were able to get them to an emergency room in Sioux Falls. Again, think of this, if this was your child, if this was your parent, if this was you, this is the kind of service that you would want available in your county to provide mutual aid. So, again, and Canton, they work very closely with Canton, and then they do a lot of transports up to Sioux Falls. So again, this particular map is very important and will be important when Senate Bill 89, which has passed. If you've been watching the legislature this year, EMS is a hot topic. It was a hot topic last year, hot topic this year. And it's important for county commissioners, city municipalities to get ahead of Senate Bill 89, come up with equitable funding solutions on your own before we're told what to do. And so that's what I'm trying to help ambulance services across South Dakota do. You can see these are the call locations for Lennox Ambulance Service. We also provide, as soon as the call is received, it's mapped on a, we geocode this, and this is a dashboard along with other critical data that helps them make decisions. But you can see that I didn't overlap the jurisdiction, but you can see that they are taking calls and doing mutual aid across outside their jurisdiction as well as inside the jurisdiction, and including the city of T. They have been steadily increasing outside of Lennox, and calls inside the city of Lennox have been steadily decreasing over the years. And this includes responses to territories served by other EMS providers, as we just discussed. Okay, so there's two ways to look at ambulance cost: the cost of service and the cost of readiness. So the cost of service is the cost of when you're actually responding to an emergency, like when you're on the road and you're working with a patient. This includes their salaries, advanced life service equipment, fuel, and supplies. And sometimes the supplies can be very, very expensive as they're trying to save that particular patient. And reimbursement from insurance and self-pay does not cover actual cost. I don't know if you've ever received a bill from your own, like I'm covered by Avera Health Insurance. I used to be covered by Walmart Blue Cross Blue Shield, and you can see where the hospital is charging one rate, but they have a negotiated rate of a much lower rate. That's how medical insurance companies work, and that's true for EMS, and it's really kind of a shame. So I'm going to give you 4 examples. These are de-identified real patients of Lennox EMS. So this is Wellmark Advantage, which is an excellent insurance company. But you can see for a BLS call, which means that, it was not it wasn't a severely critical patient. They billed $1,200 for the service, and the insurance paid 23% of the bill. And the insurance and patient paid together 36% of the bill. So the patient paid $228 of the bill. Another example is Medicare with Medica Secondary. Again, an excellent insurance. They paid 29% of the bill. Insurance and patient together paid 36% of the bill. The third is Medicare with Medica Secondary. This is an ALS call, and as you recall, the BLS call was $1,200. The ALS call is $1,500. But again, insurance paid 34% of that bill. And South Dakota Medicaid, which has really actually stepped up its reimbursement from previous years. They made some adjustments last year. But they typically, and this is very common, they pay about 19 to 20% of the bill. So imagine if you're a business owner, or I know a couple of you are attorneys, and that if you bill your client or give them a bill and it's $1,000, and that's how you pay yourself, you pay your office employees, you pay your building, and instead of getting $1,000, you get $190. And you have to pay your staff and your overhead with $190, and there's no recourse. You cannot go to the patient and ask them to pay the rest of the bill. That's it. That is where South Dakota ambulance services are, and that's why 22 of the 122 ambulance services in the state of South Dakota have turned to ambulance districts or equitable funding solutions to pay the difference between revenue and expenses. And I think that the thing that we forget is at least they do have revenue. I mean, there is some revenue to make it up. You don't, unlike police or other essential services, you don't have to pay the entire bill. You're paying just that gap between revenue and expenses. The second part of an ambulance service cost is the cost of readiness. This is the infrastructure, including the ambulance station, the ambulances themselves. Ambulances, I don't know if you know how much they cost. They're about $350,000 a piece. They're like a large piece of farm equipment, actually. And major equipment, for example, the Lucas device that keeps you alive is $25,000 each. So you need one for each one of your ambulances. You have personnel, and then training cost, insurance, everything else that's on your budget is part of your cost of readiness. So equitable funding within the current ambulance jurisdiction is essentially just a math equation. It's basically looking at the difference between your revenue and your expenses, and then dividing that by either population or call volume. And if the City of T decides to join, that would lower, of course, the cost for all entities. But again, that is a decision that is theirs, but I just wanted to make you aware of that. So I'm not going to go into the details of this, but as you can see, we looked at 3 different kind of scenarios. One was maintaining the current ambulance service jurisdiction, and then the second and the third were expanding the jurisdiction to the City of T. The middle option is if we had a centrally located ambulance station between Lenox and T, and then the third is if we put staff in the existing Lenox ambulance station and then a facility located in T. As you can see, that's the most expensive option. I will tell you that when I did this scenario analysis, I did not put in like leasing a building or cost of a second ambulance or third ambulance, et cetera. So this is just the staffing scenario. You can see with an ambulance district, it would vary between 25 cents and 45 cents per $1,000. And so it doesn't reach that 60 cents cap that we're looking at. And then you can also see that this is the cost that would be required to split equitably split between the jurisdictions, or between the entities, the municipalities and counties. So this would be an example in 2027 with these 3 different scenarios, what it would cost for each one of the entities, whether it be a municipality or Lincoln or Turner County. So now that we talked about the equitable funding option, I'm just going to talk for a couple of minutes regarding the ambulance district. So an ambulance district can you can do a mill levy or a special assessment. So what is an ambulance tax district? It's in South Dakota, it is a special purpose governmental entity established to fund and manage emergency medical services within a defined geographic area. So that's why that map is really important, because we would need to know exactly what parcels are in and out of the ambulance district. They're created to ensure that communities, particularly rural and underserved regions, have access to timely and reliable ambulance services. And again, I will say there are parts of South Dakota, particularly western South Dakota, they really like the idea of an ambulance district. So under South Dakota law, they're authorized by 3411A in South Dakota codified laws. They can be formed either through a petition by local voters or resolution by county commissioners and municipalities. Once established, these districts have the authority to levy property taxes to fund EMS operations, including staffing, equipment, and vehicles. And the maximum tax levy for operating costs is capped at 60 cents per $1,000 of taxable property valuation and 50 cents for capital cost. And in South Dakota, most of the tax districts use that capital cost to buy ambulances because it takes several years to save up. The oversight is through a board of directors that are elected within the residents within the district. The board is responsible for budgeting, setting tax levies, and ensuring compliance with state EMS licensing requirements. So for example, the newest ambulance district, and I'm sure you've heard a lot about this, is Hanson-Davidson County. So I went to their meetings with them, and the citizens wanted the tax district, but they didn't like the idea of a mill levy. And so what they decided to do is, once the board was elected and it was put into place, they decided to do special assessment. And in fact, that's what the citizens in eastern Custer County is doing too. So they looked parcel by parcel. I'm looking at Sherry, that would be kind of a pain to do, but they looked parcel to parcel, and they decided to look at owner-occupied and commercial buildings, and they are assessing between $250 and $300 per building. And then that's, from their estimation, it's more fair to agricultural owners. So if it's the current jurisdiction, there would be a 5-member board. And if T decides to join, it would be a 7-member board, including T, and then an at-large board member. And so if I owned a $100,000 property, and it was the current jurisdiction, which would require 35 cents per 1,000 to maintain or to close that gap between expenses and revenue, it would be $35 per year. But these are just examples. The new ambulance board will set that. And my final slide is the current ambulance districts are listed here. And some have been around for decades and have been operating very, very well. And some have to reassess their levy amount occasionally, so. Do you have any questions for me or for Lennox?
Ma'am, I have a couple questions.
Sure.
Thank you, and good morning, and thank you for being here.
You bet.
When it comes to private payers, whether that's cash payer or private insurance, I think most people understand. I get a bill, like when I get a bill from the doctor's office.
Right.
My insurance pays X, and then I get a bill from Sanford or Avera for, let's just say $200, and you got to pay that out of your pocket or whatever.
Right.
Right? There's no prohibition, though. There's no legal prohibition on the ambulance service reducing that down to a judgment or a collection, as long as it's private pay, correct?
That, I'm not sure.
No insurance?
No insurance?
No insurance if it's full.
Do you want to address that question?
No, I think what I'm asking is there a legal prohibition on collecting through a judgment or collections someone who's a private payer? I get the fact that private insurance doesn't cover the full amount,
Yeah.
but then there's a differential. You know, somebody takes an ambulance ride, you bill the insurance, but then you send a bill out for the remainder, just like a doctor sends a bill out for his remainder, right?
Correct.
And then, so what's happening then is I assume that you're not able to collect on all of those differentials, the remainders, right?
If you're referring to the difference between what insurance paid and what the patient paid, and the difference between that and the amount billed, no, we cannot collect on that difference.
And now when you say you can't collect on it, there's no legal prohibition. What I'm getting at is, do you reduce those down to like a small claims judgment against those people and get a lien against them?
For the remainder?
Yes.
No, because if we were to do that, we would no longer be able to bill insurance,
And who says?
the insurance companies.
So the insurance companies,
As with much of American healthcare, it's
Okay.
driven by insurance companies.
so you're telling me the insurance companies are saying, we will no longer allow you to bill our insurance if you try to collect the remainder from the patient?
Correct.
That's ridiculous.
That's how health insurance works.
Now,
And when you see it
yeah.
on your explanation of benefits, you go to the doctor, you get an explanation of benefits, an EOB. What you see on there is what was billed, what the contractual rate is,
right.
and what you pay. And the insurance company will call that plan savings. Healthcare providers call that loss.
Yeah.
That's what it is. You're losing that amount of billing.
So I've talked to other insurance companies, or excuse me, other ambulance services over the course of the last few months that this has been going on. I think I just talked to that one who serves rural Minnehaha County. He's saying that he sends those people to collections and he is able to collect from them. So what I'm wondering is, I have concern about, the bill payer's got to pay the bill before the taxpayer does. What I'm wondering here is, can we get some clarity on this whole issue? Because I've talked to him and I've talked to other ambulance providers who send those to collections to get paid. And what I'm wondering is, you guys are taking the approach where insurance companies are telling you one thing, but these insurance companies must be telling these other ambulance districts another thing.
Or the insurance company simply isn't aware that they're collecting on that remaining amount yet.
And that could be too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
I
another
mean,
alternative.
it is a contractual amount.
Yeah.
There's no if, and, or but about it. You cannot bill that remainder. And we do send bills to collections, unpaid bills, for whatever patient responsibility there is. We've done that for a long time. But that difference between patient responsibility, insurance responsibility, and amount billed, there is no way to collect that. And you'll hear that from, if you talk to Sanford, you talk to Avera, you talk to any healthcare provider, that is the way it is done.
And then when it comes, and thank you for that explanation, Nate. And then when it comes to Medicaid, Medicare, there's an actual federal law that prohibits the ambulance district from being able, or the ambulance provider, from being able to recover anything above and beyond whatever that statutory rate is, correct?
Right. That's my understanding.
It's a hard cap.
Correct.
What percentage of your patients are Medicaid, Medicare versus private pay?
Alan Perry, Director of EMS for Lennox. I just conferred with my partner over there from Canton EMS and confirmed what I was thinking. It's between 60 and 70%. It's a combination between Medicare and Medicaid of our call volume.
Yeah, so 60 to 70% of your call volume is limited or capped at basically 250? Is that kind of the number? 550?
550, yes.
550, okay.
Yep.
All right,
Like for Medicaid, 19%, you saw that one slide, is what
Yeah.
they paid.
yeah. Thank you.
So Nate, maybe, so are the insurance companies contracting like that same way where the ambulance has to accept assignment of what the insurance company rate is and then they can't collect on it?
That would be my understanding, yes.
Okay, so they're kind of doing what Medicaid, Medicare are doing anyway.
Yeah, in return for being able to bill insurance, you're accepting their rates and
Their
their member
rate.
responsibility.
So if somebody goes to the hospital and they don't have insurance and they had to be ambulance there, so it's an emergency, so a poor relief claim gets filed, does that include that, do you know if that includes the ambulance services?
Are you referencing the medical assistance that the county would pay?
Right, when we end up getting the
It's
bill.
doubtful. It might be in a case, and Rob can probably speak to this better than I would, like if Sanford is responsible for the ambulance and the hospital,
Right.
it could be, but in our case, it would not be.
Drew, do you know the answer to that? Okay.
We have paid some insurance claims, or not insurance, but we have paid some ambulance claims, and then we do it at the Medicaid rate, but it's not very often. We usually just get the hospital bills.
Right, and then we have to pay, just that max Medicaid rate, okay.
Respectfully, we'd like it to be more often.
I mean, basically, yeah, Nate, I mean, basically, Elon Musk or Bill Gates could get into an accident on I-29 here, and even though they're the richest people in the world, they're capped at whatever the insurance company says they are.
Yes.
Now, what's outstanding, or I shouldn't say outstanding, what's concerning is that they go to the emergency room and they get taken care of, and the hospital can bill for the remainder above and beyond what the insurance company gets. Yeah, you can. My insurance company is TRICARE, right? I go to the emergency room because I get a cut. TRICARE pays X amount. Then Sanford bills me for the remainder of what my insurance doesn't pay. Right? They're allowed to under South Dakota law. What I'm wondering is, why is there a differential for ambulance services? You know, if Bill Gates gets hurt on the interstate, we ought to be able to collect the whole pay from him. And what I'm wondering is, has there been any discussions with the legislature about changing that law to permit recovery above and beyond what the insurance company pays? Because what's happening now is, unfortunately, and you guys are stuck in the middle, you're stuck. And now you're coming to the taxpayer instead of coming to the patient bill payer.
So there was the Senate Bill 211, is that what, Rob, you and, okay. And so they, it was originally, so some states have passed a bill that requires the insurance company to pay 100 or 375 to 400% of Medicaid rate. And, you know, for EMS services to close that balance. The insurance companies lobbied and got it amended to 125% of Medicaid rate. It was then brought back up to 275, but it got killed on the Senate floor. So we are kind of back to ground zero again, but we're hoping to bring that back next year. So, and I will say, South Dakota is working with a national firm called PWW. They do, in fact, they just did a big study for the state of North Dakota, and I'm hoping that South Dakota with Senate Bill 89 hires them or somebody with similar experience to look at similar policies that could help EMS services and close that gap. So you're right, so that I'm a taxpayer in South Dakota, but on one hand, when I call 911, I expect an ambulance to show up. In South Dakota, an ambulance doesn't have to show up. That's just that. On the other hand, I don't want to pay, additional taxes. However, it's, it's a real conundrum in South Dakota right now.
Well, and if they force that on the insurance companies, you're just gonna pay higher rates on the insurance. I mean,
Yeah.
it's gonna get paid for somewhere.
Yeah.
But-
Do you have any additional questions? I really appreciate you guys listening and your thoughtful questions.
I want to thank you for coming and Nate, for everything that you've done to put all this stuff together. This has just been an onion that just keeps peeling and peeling and peeling. And so I thought it was time, since we started this on December 17th last year at the 4-H building, to bring it forward for both the public and the commission to know what we've been doing. And it just doesn't get easier. And then when you look at the state legislature, all the things that they've killed up there to help with EMT funding, I know that I think there's supposed to be a summer study done, but that doesn't help us now. And the county doesn't have money, the townships don't have money, municipalities don't have money. And so it's a conundrum, and like I said, the peels just keep coming off the onion. So again, we so appreciate you coming and presenting this.
Thank you, Commissioner Rod.
The bottom line to take away is someone's got to pay. Somewhere the money's got to come from. I think you mentioned mandatory service, didn't you, someone? Yeah, essential service, excuse me. Why is that? I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me. There are a lot of things that Commissioner Aaron said didn't make sense for him either, but why not essential service? It's a life and death situation. I
agree, and Rob and Alan may be able to answer this better than I do, but ambulances are relatively young. I mean, they're 50 years old. Before, it was the undertakers or the mortuary,
Yeah.
or you throw somebody in the back of a sheriff's car or a police car. It was the ambulance services across the nation really didn't start until the 60s, 70s. You started in 1975, so they're 51 years old now. And that's how old most South Dakota ambulance services are. For some reason, this is not unique to South Dakota. This is nationwide. Police are essential service, fire is essential service, ambulance, not essential service. I'm not sure why they made that decision 50 years ago, but yeah.
Ma'am, I had an interesting conversation with some folks from City of Sioux Falls on this.
Yeah.
You go to some bigger metropolitan areas, and their fire department is actually the essential service entity that takes care of ambulance service. Like, you watch TV, you see the FDNY, New York Fire Department, they actually have ambulance service embedded within them. And I know there's some actual, at least very high-level discussion about whether City of Sioux Falls, to bring it back here to the local area, whether they're going to do that or not. Is that part of the issue here? Is that because it's not conjoined with the fire departments, or is it because of the rural nature and they've just kind of said, hey, locals, go figure this out?
Well, I'll answer part of it, and then I'm going to turn it over to Alan. So there are some jurisdiction in South Dakota, like, for example, Watertown. Watertown has a fire EMS. However, I am working right now with the city of Watertown and with Chief Rowland right now, because even though they have a fire budget and they have an EMS budget, and they are getting slammed by Cottington County and by City of Watertown, because they can't, there's that difference between revenue and expenses. So they are, honestly, they're looking at a tax district. They're not looking at equitable funding. They're looking at an ambulance district because they can't make up that. They understand that they have to eat the cost of fire. That's just, they have their mind wrapped around that, but they don't have their mind wrapped around that with EMS. So I'm just going to.
And with most rural communities, the fire departments are volunteer. So it doesn't really change the nature of this problem. Call volume keeps going up. people are working and they have to have 1 or 2 jobs to support a family, they're not around to volunteer. So the fire departments are struggling to crew for fires, let alone ambulance calls. And the call volume for ambulances is typically quite a bit higher than a fire department, just by nature of the calls.
And I want to interject to that. Through all of this, we have found out that the businesses that hire these volunteers don't want them to volunteer anymore. And the average age, I believe, is like 51 of the volunteers, but the businesses are no longer trying to support the volunteers for these EMTs. And so they either say, well, you can either go volunteer for $3.25 an hour, or you can come and do the job that we've hired you to do. So that puts another strain on the volunteers.
Yeah, I think all your fire departments, especially in T, I know, Harrisburg, all have very frustrated fire departments because they get so many calls and they burn themselves out. And as you said, Commissioner, businesses can't let them go. And yet you want to have a young, progressive fire department. You don't want something like Tripp County has or Tripp has. I think the youngest person on their fire department is darn near as old as I am. So good luck. Anyway, when you mention all of these things, I want to go back to Moody County. What changed their mind? Because I know you worked with them and they were pretty adamant on not wanting to do anything, but yet they have made a decision. What was the deciding factor for them?
This report. So essentially, what we did, the first meeting that we went to, it was very contentious. The tension was high. And then we worked with basically Nate and Tyson in the city of Flandreau. So what happened was Moody County Ambulance for 50 years had been operated through Moody County. However, when we looked at their call volume rates, 70% of their calls were from the city of Flandreau, and yet the city of Flandreau was not, they didn't have any skin in the game. They didn't contribute any money. So there was some tension between the city councilors and the county commissioners. However, when we presented the data and we had the same, we presented, I'm just going to pull this up. When we presented this model to them, they really kind of understood better. What helped was that the Flandreau Santee tribe was already providing some money to the Moody County Ambulance because they understood that there was a call volume rate on tribal lands. When we looked at the equitable funding model, they raised that contribution, that annual contribution. And of the 70% within Flandreau, 23% was from the Avera Flandreau Hospital, 12% was from their assisted living. So then the CEO of Vera Flandreau Hospital decided to contribute $25,000 a year. Between the tribe and the city and the county and the hospital, they were able to close that gap. They also decided that because most of the call volume was coming from the city of Flandreau, they transferred the operations of the ambulance from Moody County to the city of Flandreau. So it was a very, the second meeting was much different than the first meeting. It was very, they essentially, again, it was a math equation. It wasn't territorial or anything like that.
Okay.
And the city of, I will say, that's the only ambulance they have in that county, too.
Is that the same situation with Yankton?
Yes, so Yankton County, I'm working with them too. Yankton County is, the city of Yankton has not contributed. We even asked the city of Yankton for $20,000 for a Lucas device, and unfortunately, we're turned down. But 85% of the calls in Yankton County are from the city limits of Yankton. So there's not a lot, only 15% are from the rural, and that's the only ambulance service in Yankton County. So I can understand why the county commissioners in Yankton are frustrated. So I'm trying to work with them on the same, and they do not want a tax district in Yankton. And I get that. And so they are looking at, we're hoping that they'll look at this model as well.
Thank you.
You know, I think that people are gonna have to ask themselves the question, when it's all said and done, we revolve around dollars, but we're talking about life. And we got a basic life support versus advanced life support. So which one do you wanna have if it's your son, your daughter, your wife, your grandparents? What's that worth? And that's the question you're gonna have to ask. What is it worth? We take insurance out for cars, we take insurance out for property, we take insurance out for health. But when it comes down to the bottom line, you cut through all the information. When you dial that number, what kind of life support do you want to have to take care of a loved one? And how much then does the dollars and cents make? And that's a key question I think that the citizens are going to have to ask themselves, and we're going to have to come up with an answer. So,
All right, thank you for that. I'll take some brief public comment on the agenda item. We're not taking action on this, so max 10 minutes.
Commissioners Lynn DeYoung with Live in T at 630 South James, also on the city council. This was on our agenda last night. We talked extensively about the funding, or the EMS report that we had done. That was sent to you guys. It should be somewhere in the county. Of course, our call volumes grow in there too. We don't have a formalized agreement with either agency, but we're exploring, because what are we going to do in the future as call volume grows, so citizens ask for additional services? I would challenge you to look at your neighbors to the north. Commissioner Aaron's had a discussion with maybe Curtis from Del Rapids, or Curtis from Garrettson, or Ryan from Del Rapids, or Tim from Humboldt, and I'm sure the answer not only on the insurance was, hey, what do you get back from them? But part of the funding model is, what do you get from the county? And none of those services can operate without the $90,000 subsidy that they get from the county. And then you go west to McCook County and you ask commissioners from McCook County, and they will tell you they give $400,000 to support their service from McCook County.
That's true.
So I would challenge you to come up with a county funding application for this. Look to your neighbors to the north, look and see what the need is. I think you've heard that. Ask the financial questions. And then part of that application process should also include, what happens if you go out of service? Where's your ambulance coming from? Because if you look at the map that was provided, it's not going to get there in time. So time is of essence. I know the funding is, or the question's always about new funding. Where is the money coming from? And I think Commissioner Schmidt reported last week that the county will have approximately $1.5 million of growth for next year. At least allow the agencies, and I don't care which ones, they all should be included if desired, to apply for that and judge that against the rest of the needs of the county. The city of T, those other ones, we're in the process. We don't know what our decision yet, but I think the question is can you wait? I think the answer you've heard is no one's coming to help you. State of South Dakota is not coming to help you. Insurance isn't coming to help you. What do you want to provide for public safety in your community? I think we just saw earlier a 50-50 split of a non-budgeted item. So it can be done. Maybe not this year, but setting the stage for next year. So I would say the city of T, we're in the process, we're having those robust discussions. We don't know what our answer is yet, but I don't think it can wait until 2 years down the road. I think it's been waiting too many years You've got to look at it. You've got to see, what are we going to do? How did our neighbors from other counties come to the funding solutions they did? They had discussions like this. Bring them into the fold, have that, make good, tough discussions for public safety, for the needs of your constituents.
Thanks, Lynn.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lynn.
Chad, you're waiting in the wings back there?
Good morning again, Chair and Commission. Chad Skiles from Canton. I'm going to preface my comments by saying that all of my words are going to be of my own, not representing any agency or department. Just my personal observations. Next month, I start my 42nd year involved in public safety, specifically emergency medical services in Lincoln County. And I kind of want to just provide some summary over what has been talked about this morning. First off, dealing with the question about essential services. The reason exactly why EMS is not classified as an essential service is directly because we're so young in relationship to other entities within the public safety realm. Law enforcement has been an essential service dating back to the early days before we were a country. The volunteer fire brigades go back just as far. I mean, you were a member of a volunteer fire brigade back in the day in the wild, wild west with one criteria. If you owned a bucket, you were on the fire brigade. That was how it worked. EMS, we are 50s, 60s, more formally into the 70s. So we missed out on the timeline. That's why we're not an essential service. Okay? Next, dealing with some of the bills that our state legislature is dealing with this year. This has been the most robust year in recent history, dealing with bills regarding specifically with emergency medical services. I'm happy to report that a couple of bills, HB 1023 and HB 1024, have both passed, have been signed by the governor, will become law. That's going to help us. Those deal with allowing like LPNs and RNs to work on and volunteer on ambulance services, and the other one is to allow emergency vehicle drivers to be able to drive. You don't have to be an EMT or a paramedic to drive an ambulance, just have the training to drive an emergency vehicle. That was good. Senate Bill 89 has been referenced a couple of times. In its original form, Senate Bill 89 did make EMS an essential service. Why I bring that up is because that would have directly affected you as a county commission, because it was right in the bill that said that emergency medical services will become an essential service and will be required to be funded by lower governmental entities, municipalities, counties, some funding source. In other words, and I also heard this word earlier, another unfunded mandate coming down from the legislature to the local level. Depending on how you look at it, fortunately or unfortunately, that bill was amended way down to where it's at right now. It is still alive, where it's just going to create a task force, another task force, in my opinion, to study this issue and this problem. But Senate Bill 89 is still alive and is still progressing through the legislature. If I remember off the top of my head, it's passed one side and is waiting for the other side in the chambers, if I remember right. And then finally, Senate Bill 211. Senate Bill 211 regarded actually setting some minimum standards for us to be able to bill, and the percentages were discussed earlier. But unfortunately, that failed in the Senate last Thursday. And unfortunately, it failed 17-16, so it came up one vote short. It needed 18 votes to pass. It came up one vote short. And I think it's important to say for Lincoln County, we have 4 legislative districts in Lincoln County, and how those senators voted. Senate Legislative District 12, which is Southern Sioux Falls, that's represented by Arch Beal. He was absent, excused from that vote that day. Senate Bill, or Legislative 13 was Sue Peterson. She supported and voted yes. Legislative District 16, which is the bulk of, the southern 2/3 of Lincoln County, Kevin Jensen from Canton, he voted yes. Unfortunately, Senator Ernie Otten from District 6, he and Harrisburg voted no on it. That vote would have given us the 18 to continue that. So I felt it was important that this commission knew where their senators sat and voted on that. But unfortunately, and it wasn't considered to be recalled. So unless it's smoked out, I don't see that going anywhere. So those are my words. I'm out of time. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we were gonna move on to our next agenda item.
There was somebody else wanting to speak.
Yep, I had limited it to 10 minutes.
Really?
Do you wanna,
10 minutes?
Nope, I'll send an email. It's fine.
are you sure? I mean, if you wanna come out and keep it super short, that's fine. We've got a lengthy agenda today that we're trying to get through.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Good morning, Amanda Mack. I'm the city administrator in Harrisburg. Back in early November, the commission tabled the creation of a countywide committee to study the EMS services. And I'm just curious where that sits. The rationale for tabling it was to wait until the T study was done, until some further work was done on the Lennox study. And I just want to make sure that Harrisburg hasn't missed the boat to participate in conversations about EMS services. We have the same challenges as T and other communities in Lincoln County. So thank you.
Thank you, and I would say Commissioner Otten has been working on the sideline, on looking at all of these options and keeping the commission informed of those things. So I would encourage you to have direct conversation with her about being part of that.
And I think you were also at the December 17th meeting. That was our first meeting that we started, and we've just kind of been snowballing down. So that's why I wanted to have this meeting so everybody know that we were all on the same page and where we were going with it. So thank you for that question.
All right, next item on our agenda is a Conservation District presentation.
Hello, Commissioners. Paul Anderson, Lincoln County Commission Administrative Assistant. Just a briefing from the Lincoln County Conservation District. They receive funding, and they'll just talk about their year and what they provide and who they provide it for. So Jeremy from the Lincoln County Conservation District.
Thank you, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for your time and all the work you guys do. Just want to stay on your radar. We're still out there. We're still working on doing conservation work. And we really need your support and partnership. We're still going through some lean times right now, working hand in hand with the local NRCS. Corey's here with me too, but we'll just tell you, still looking for other funding sources. The main funding that we get from you guys goes towards administrative. We're looking to state for grants. We got a small grant this last fall that we applied for. We're looking for a bigger one, but they do not allow any administrative costs in those grants. So still looking for our options. I sent you guys our report for our activities. It's going to be very similar to the previous year. That's basically what I have. Any questions or anything?
Does anybody have questions for Jeremy?
Jeremy, you got a tough job. You do good. You've dotted the whole county with trees and shelter belts. Thank you.
We're working at it.
Yeah.
No, thank you guys.
Is your equipment up to speed?
It's gonna need some updates, not too long, but we're still working with some old equipment, but it's working.
But it's working?
Yep.
Okay. 'Cause some of that has been years old, if I recall.
Yes, yes.
I'm looking at your documents that you provided that are in our share file. Was there a request for funding from the county? Is that what you're asking for?
Yeah, but I think that's at a separate docket, but at this time it's just basically an activity.
Okay.
Like I said, just to stay fresh in your mind that we're still here and we appreciate when we do apply for that and when you consider us.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any public input on the presentation? All right, if not, we'll move on to the next item on our agenda. To consider a motion to approve and authorize the chair to execute the joint agreements for combined elections. Good morning, Sherry.
Good morning, Sherry Lund, Lincoln County Auditor. Today we have several agreements presented for the combined elections. These agreements come out of last year's SB 1130. 1130 requires certain political subdivisions to coordinate and combine elections on the same day. That would either be the June primary or the general. So what we've done is we've worked over since about November of last year in coming up with the agreements for all the different districts. We have the listing here of who is in agreement and who has waited. So that's all I'm asking for today is for you to execute the agreements.
Commissioners, you have any questions for Sherry?
And then this will also give you the idea of who is going to combine. The ballots are going to be longer this next election cycle.
So Sherry, when it says pending, that means Centerville School District and Sioux Falls School District, they have not decided?
No,
when?
Sioux Falls School District did decide. I'm not sure why she put pending on Centerville. Maybe they don't have, these agreements are for okay, so we're waiting for the agreement back from Centerville and Sioux Falls.
Okay, so they have decided just?
Yeah, I know Sioux Falls, yeah, they're all on board for it.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe Centerville doesn't have an election this year.
Other questions for Sherry?
What do the asterisks mean?
I don't know, Kayla's not here, and I don't know why she put an asterisk. The asterisk might be, I have no idea why she put an asterisk on there.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
Well, the reason I ask is, I'm just trying to figure out, what are we voting on?
To authorize the chair to execute the agreements that we have listed. If you go down to the attachments, we have Canton, Beersford, Alcester, Beersford School, Lennox School, City of Worthing, Sioux Falls joint agreement with Minnehaha County, City of Canton, Harrisburg School, T School, and City of Lennox. We have those agreements attached for her to execute.
Okay, and what this means is they're gonna appear on the ballots that your office prints and disseminates and handles?
They are having the election on the same day as us, and they are combining on our ballot.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
That's all schools?
The ones that are listed on there, those are the agreements that we have. They all elections have to be on June or November. Then they have an option after that to combine it. If they combine it, then what we've done is if you looked at the agreement, it spells out what we're doing, what they're doing, and how we're cost sharing it. That's what the agreements list out.
But it'll all be just one election, twice a year.
All elections will be in June and November. What they're doing here is they're saying, we want to be on your ballot. So when you come to vote on our primary election ballot, City of Sioux Falls, all their questions are going to be on our ballot. And that's why we have to have the agreement.
And you're happy with the cost share?
Well, we've worked really hard to make sure that there wasn't an additional burden. So like, if we were running the City of Sioux Falls election and they didn't have an election, all that share would be on them. But now we're saying we'll have the poll workers no matter what. But in your precinct, if you have a larger number and we have to have 2 more poll workers, you're paying for those poll workers. And we've talked to every one of these entities, and they're all in agreement with it. The programming for having the one more person on the ballot, they'll pay for. It's broke down by several different items, but it's not gonna be an extraordinary cost on the city. It's just gonna be their additional cost.
Okay.
All right, other questions for Sherry from the commission? All right, any public input on this agenda item? If not, could I get a motion, please?
Motion to approve Otten.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second for approval. If there's no further discussion, Alicia, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Putnam?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Otten?
Yes.
Aaron's?
Yes.
Landine?
Yes, motion carries. Next item was originally number 6 on our agenda. Consider a motion to award a bid for cutting edges carbide blades to Butler Machinery, rubber flex blades, et cetera, et cetera.
What number is that?
6.
6.
All right. I am back again. Here we go. All right. I have before you another one of our supply bids to award. This one is for, we're going to consider a motion to award the bid for cutting edges. The carbide blades are going to go to Butler Machinery for $246.49 for a 4-foot blade. And the rubber flex blades are going to go to Equipment Blades for $520 for a 4-foot blade. And again, these were the only 2 bidders on this item.
Questions for Terry?
How long does the blade last, Terry?
Depends on the snow. Depends on the snow.
Yeah.
We've been having better luck with the rubber flex ones.
Yeah.
Getting a little more life out of them than just the standard carbide. So I think most of the trucks we've converted over to the rubber flex, but the wings, we still use the carbide, the steel blade on them, so.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Any public input on the presentation? All right, if not, can I get a motion, please?
Move for approval?
Thank you.
Second, Otten.
Got a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, Alicia, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Putnam?
Yeah.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Otten?
Yes.
Aaron's?
Yes.
Landine?
Yes, motion carries. Next, we have a motion to award a bid for rock salt to Blackstrap.
All right, next one, consider motion to award,
What number is that?
8.
this would be number 8, for rock salt to Blackstrap for $80.97 a ton. And this one here, we had 2 bidders as well.
Anybody have questions for Terry?
What did you pay last year?
I think this is just upside, I think we're right around this 80, I think we're like 79 something maybe.
Okay.
So,
Any public input on this agenda item? If not, could I get a motion, please?
Move to approve.
Second, Otten.
Got a motion and a second for approval. If there's no further discussion, Alicia, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Putnam?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Otten?
Yes.
Aaron's?
Yes.
Landine?
Yes, motion carries. Next item on our agenda. Go ahead.
next item, I have consider a motion to award the bid for weed chemicals. First to Nutrien Solutions for Freelex for $35 a gallon, and from Milestone for $285 a gallon. And then to Van D Supply for Toradon for $49.83 a gallon, Freelex for $35 a gallon, and the Milestone for $285 a gallon.
Thank you. Commission, have any questions for Terry?
Are these similar to last year's prices?
Yeah, they're slightly up a little bit. The one thing, so the reason for awarding to 2 of them, for the Freelex and the Milestone, those are minimum prices that they can give for cost, or the lowest they can go. That's why those are the same. And again, we would award to both, since the prices are the same, depending on delivery, so.
Thank you. Is there any public input on this agenda item? If not, could I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second,
Madam Chair.
Otten.
Got a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, Alicia, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Putnam?
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Otten,
Yes.
Aaron's,
Yes.
Landine.
Yes, motion carries. Next, we have a motion to award a bid for concrete products.
All right, next item I have is awarding a bid for concrete products, which is culverts, bridge beams, box culverts. And again, this one here, we're going to award to Old Castle Infrastructure, Semcast Pipe and Precast, and Ranker, awarding to the bidder with the lowest bid for each item and rejecting the high bids for each item. So what we have here is if you went through and looked through your folder, you'll see there's probably 40 or 50 or 60 pages worth of materials. Basically, if we need a certain size, we'll go through there and find which one's the cheapest, and that's the one we go with, so.
Questions for Terry? Public input on this agenda item? All right, can I get a motion, please?
Otten, approve?
Is there a
Second.
second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Aaron's. Got a motion and a second. Alicia, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Putnam,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Otten,
Yes.
Aaron's,
Yes.
Landine.
Yes, motion carries.
All right, I'm almost done. Consider a motion to award Lincoln County Highway Roundabout Project to BX Civil and Construction in the amount of $1,425,000. If you looked at the bid tab on this, very competitive bids on this project. Engineer's cost estimate was probably about 1.9 million. So we got really good prices on this, and we did have 10 bidders, which is very unusual. We had 10 bidders on this item, so.
Anybody have questions for Terry?
This is the roundabout project that is north of Lennox.
North Lennox.
Klondike, County Road 116 and County Road 105 intersection, so.
When will construction start on this, Terry?
Well, if the weather holds, we'll end up seeing, once we get the contract back, from them, it could be next month. I don't know I don't know what their schedule is. We'd have to find out once we get the award to them, so.
And will this end up being a 2-lane roundabout or 1 lane?
It's a large single lane. One kind of nice thing about this, so most of the turning traffic we have is northbound, coming up to that intersection. So we do have, it's a designated right turn to go to the east on that. So basically, if you're coming north and you want to go east, you don't even enter into the roundabout, into the circle. You're just taking this bypass lane around it, so.
Okay.
This is an excellent place for that roundabout.
Yeah, it's gonna be a tough year this year, for those folks in Lennox. And again, I've heard some of the concerns, their 4th of July thing is huge. And one of the things that makes this even, just kind of throw another wrench in the plan here is I know the DOT is doing a regrade on, use Old Highway 17, down by the football field, a mile south down to 44 going to the interstate.
Yeah.
So that's going to be closed this year, so getting into Lennox is going to be kind of a tough thing this year, but once it's complete, this is going to be a good project. This is a good project, so.
Terry, a comment on your bids have come in very, on the 85th Street interchange have come in exceedingly under projections, so there must be a lot of hungry people out there.
I think so. I think they're contractors looking for work,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Other questions for Terry? If not, is there any public input on this agenda item? If not, could I get a motion, please?
Move for
Otten,
approval.
approve?
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, Alicia, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Putnam,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Otten,
Yes.
Aaron's,
Yes.
Landine.
Yes, motion carries.
My last item for today, consider a motion to award Lincoln County Highway Surfacing Project to Journey Group Companies or Blacktop Paving Company in the amount of $848,209.89. Again, this is a surfacing project that we're going to be doing. This is on going through Lennox and then on County Road 124 and then going, or excuse me, Worthing, not Lennox, through Worthing, and then going south on County Road 117. It's about a 5.5 mile project, I believe. And then also on this one, cost estimates for this were about 1.1 million for this project. Again, we came in way under. As well as the other one, we had 8 bidders on this one. So we had a lot of contractors bidding on this one. Again, you go through the bid tab, prices are close. Prices are close, so.
I'm gonna abstain from this vote, because I just saw that Merlin Royce was on here, so.
Okay.
I'm gonna go ahead and hand the chair to Commissioner Schmidt then
Okay.
on this particular
Have
item.
we had public comment?
No.
No.
Do we have public comment on this agenda item? Hearing none, any more questions from the commission? If not, would you
Move to
please?
approve, Otten.
Yeah. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Otten and a second by Commissioner Aaron's. Would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Putnam?
Yes.
Otten?
Yes.
Aaron's?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes. Back to you, Madam
you.
Chair.
Thank you. Information Technology Department Head Presentation.
Morning.
Good morning, Jake.
Sorry, doing multiple jobs at once today. Okay. I'm here to present my department's kind of the past, present, and future for the outlook of the new budget season of 2027. Just to give you an overview of what the Lincoln County IT Department does. We're responsible for managing and supporting all technology, infrastructure, systems, and services for Lincoln County employees and its citizens. Our key responsibilities are hardware, software, and technical support, cybersecurity and physical security, server, network, and data management. And then some numbers there about our user counts. Some of the users are internal and some of them are external. Servers that we have, computers, devices, and trying to make sure we have a great website and good communication with the citizens as well. Our mission is to make sure that we can keep our IT services running 24/7, 365, as we do have public safety in the county here, so we want to make sure everybody's up and going with that as well. As last year in a review, one of our big upgrades was the phone system. We did that. We had a couple of trial and errors with that, but we got that all resolved. We have new capabilities with the phone system, which I'll discuss in the next slide, but we are happy with it and we'll keep moving forward. Some other IT upgrades that we did that are specific just to our department. We upgraded some server infrastructure, enhanced our security systems, improved in performance, and we conducted another audit with DSU as well, and we did get good scores with that. Expectations of this year. We're looking to enhance the communications with the public. This is by better call processing and routing. So that's things of trying to get a citizen on the phone as fast as we can to make sure that they're getting routed to the correct areas. So when they do call us, they're not getting directed to the wrong department or they're to the wrong person within a department. Another protocol we're trying to add into place is also doing a secure text messaging platform. That is at the very beginning stages. We're hoping to get that done at this year or within next year. But with that, we will be able to allow our citizens to text us with questions and answer questions along with sending us documents through a secured portal as well. We think this would be a huge benefit as our newer generations that are coming in, they more want to do text messages and to give us information, and we'll be able to answer those questions when we are able. It also allows us to work more efficiently because then we could have one of our employees helping 4 people at once as well. So where on a phone call it's more of a one-to-one, we can have helping multiple people at once. So looking forward to that, and hopefully when that comes through and the funding is not exponentially, you guys will approve that. The next is designing and implementing the systems in the new Justice Center. This year we kind of let the projects be a little bit smaller to get ready for that new Justice Center. We already have started the planning and developing of the design of that building. Now it'll just get to the point of making sure we get it implemented and running and going by the opening day of that building. Looking forward for 2027, we would like to complete the enhancements that we want to make with the communication capabilities on our phone system. Another cool feature we wanted to add that'll probably happen in 27 is we're going to try to add AI into our phone system so that if a citizen does want to speak to someone or they want to ask questions over the phone, you could even say, how much do I owe on property taxes? And it can say, where do you live? And then you give that answer back and it can say, this is how much you owe. Or they were already paid by your escrow or things like that, so that it can lower the call volume within our offices. We are looking at the idea of expanding the IT department for one more full-time employee. We're thinking about the 2028 time, because by the 2027 time, we'll have a full understanding of what that new Justice Center capabilities would need to make sure that we have okay. I spoke with the staff. We're okay with waiting one more year just to make sure, because we don't want to hire a full-time employee if we don't fully need it. So, the next project in 27 is to do a refresh on our in-car patrol cameras and body-worn cameras. Those are now becoming end of life, so we're looking to try to get that done in the 2027 budget. With that, we don't think it'll be too exponential cost, where the IT department will still have a very low increase, because we have planned, how we've done our budgets is planned to make sure you don't have that huge increase, and it's always just a steady budget every year. Additional funding, though, may be required for cybersecurity. That is also changing very fast and very rapidly, that we're looking into all options to make sure we can get it funded by something else. Luckily, like with the UJS, they did that funding with that new Justice Center to help with all of the security at that building. But other than that, be prepared for that. And we don't fully understand what the increase would be for that new Justice Center for the technology side. So be ready for that to come in the 27-28 year budget. Other than that, that is all I have for the past, present, and future of the IT department. And if you have any questions, I'm ready.
Just one note, we did get approved for the statewide security grant money for, the courthouse, the new Justice Center, and we were awarded the max of $350,000 for that, so.
Huge savings for us.
That was great news. And then did you get those other I'm just asking, did you get other requests or those things that you wanted to talk to Julie about?
Yes,
that
I
you
did. I have spoke with Terra Group, and we are working on different solutions on different of the topics.
Okay, okay, work in progress.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
very good.
I am always amazed what your department does with 3 employees.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, and then I know that we've heard in the past when we've been on calls for the Justice Center, how critical it was for you to be involved. Do you have an idea what your cost savings was when you were talking with the new Justice Center?
The biggest cost savings that I have known that I personally have tried to help was about like $350,000 of a savings there. We kind of did a redesign to the security system there to be more cost effective, but also have that full security of the building as well. So,
Jake, we so appreciate you.
yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Jake. Any public input on this agenda item? If not, then we'll keep moving. Thank you, Jake.
Thank you, Jake.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Toby Brown, representing County Planning and Zoning Department. I'll be brief, so I'm going to skim through a lot of my slides, but if you have any questions, you can just follow up with me on that. So a little bit of what I want to talk to you about this morning is kind of a little bit about the overall department, what we do, how we do it. Talk to you a little bit about kind of the metrics from last year that we had in the county. Take a look at kind of forecasting what we're going to propose for 2027 budget, and then talk a little bit about key initiatives that we've been working on and continue to work on. So really, what is the Planning and Zoning Department? The Planning and Zoning Department really helps identify or place development within the county. We help decide where things get built. And I like to say we do that within our jurisdiction. So the county jurisdiction is outside the municipalities. It's the unincorporated area of the county. And really, I consider the department 3 boxes. So the first box would be the planning and the visioning part of it, coordination. The implementation, which is your land use management ordinances. Inspection enforcement, that's really your building code. And then our nuisance code. So for the overall organizational structure, pretty lean, mean, efficient machine, I like to think. So we have a planning director, a planner, that's Caden. We have 2 building inspector code enforcement officers, that's Joel and Keith. As far as the vision or the planning of it, on December 24th of 2024, the county adopted the current policy document for the county. Again, state statute requires if the county is going to enforce zoning law within the jurisdiction, the state law requires that we have a comprehensive plan. So that was just adopted 2024. What I'd like to say about that is the first time really in the county's history that we really had a citizen-driven comprehensive plan. I know a lot of people talk about that we spent money on doing it, but really that was to allow the consultant to work with constituents to make sure that the plan, the vision is what they desired. So the most important part of that comprehensive plan is a visual, that's the land use map. Really what the land use map is, that's a visual representation of our goals, policies, and vision. And so a lot of people will say, well, where is this going to go or how is that going to go? It's really the land use map is what we're telling the people where we want development to go. And again, that was development or citizen driven through that process. The zoning regulations, that's your main tool for implementing that vision or that comprehensive plan. That is a law. Under state statute, again, if you have a comprehensive plan, you can enforce zoning regulations. In Lincoln County, it's a what I would call a very user-friendly document. Pretty basic, no really over-regulations with it. But we divide land uses into 3 main components. That's permissive uses, which are by right land uses. And then we have permitted special uses, which I call kind of a hybrid between a by right and a conditional use. And then conditional use. Conditional use is the majority of the land uses that we have within Lincoln County. Conditional uses all require a public hearing, notification to the public. Subdivision regulations. This is our law for dividing land and recording property within the county, so our department enforces that. Really, what I would say about this is 2 things, is that with the new comprehensive plan, we've really dedicated or developed growth more towards the municipalities, so we're utilizing their subdivision regulations. There's always been a conflict between our subdivision regulations and municipalities because we're not a service provider, we don't provide water, we don't provide sewer, we don't provide electricity. Cities do that, so you have to make sure that the land that we're developing is in accordance to allow those types of infrastructure to develop. So inspection and enforcement, so the primary thing there is building code. Under state statute, if we want to enforce building code, it has to be the International Building Code, the International Residential Code. We currently have the 2018 version of that. And really what the 2018 version of that is a locally amended code. So we've locally decided what the highest risk that we have with the lowest minimum standard for building construction. One that's unique about Lincoln County is, if you're aware, the legislature was attempted to pass a bill this year to exempt what they call maintenance, which should be roofing, siding, and those different types of things. Proud in Lincoln County, we've never done that. All of our building codes, we've never enforced that, so we consider those things maintenance from a building perspective. So if you do any roof or repair, replacement, or re-siding, that does not require any permit from the department. So the department also enforces the nuisance code. So there's a locally adopted code or law that defines what public nuisances exist within the county. So the department, we're complaint-based, that's the policy. So we're not doing, we're preserving our resources for making sure that we can work with the identified public complaints that we have. The overall goal of the department, though, is voluntary compliance. So we're trying to work with the landlord to have them come into compliance. State law does allow us to go above and beyond that, but we haven't done that to this point. And really going above and beyond that to that point would be utilizing taxpayer funds to front the cost of doing those types of things. So I'm proud to say that 99.9% of the cases that we have in the county, the citizens work with us and we work with them to try to resolve these issues before we have to expend any additional taxpayer dollars. A little bit about the metrics from last year. So permit volume, we're up in residential, we're down in non-residential. If you recall last year, I said what I see in the trend is the non-residential, your commercial industrial properties, is it really, we don't have a great inventory of zone-ready properties for industrial and commercial. So that's kind of a lack or a need that we do have within the county. But that kind of addresses a lot of the permits. For the issue permit valuation, For the third year in a row, $100 million of taxable valuation, over $100 million of taxable valuation has gone through our department. And so that's an investment by our taxpayers, by our residents, by our citizens and their property to improve their property or to enhance their property. And really, when you compare that to what the overall county budget for this whole organization is significantly less than what we're getting in private sector investment. And again, the Director of Equalization will say, well, that's just the unincorporated area. The cities, Harrisburg, T, Sioux Falls, they're all contributing additionally to what that number is. As far as permit fees, we went over the estimation of what we anticipated for those permit fees again. And that's, again, a testament to our citizens for their commitment to improving their properties. Rezone applications, which I would say would be the biggest thing that we saw in 2025. With the new comprehensive plan, we took a new approach to petitions for change of zones in the county. And so, again, that was guided by the comprehensive plan. So the new comprehensive plan guides all development outside of agricultural to the urban growth area. And within that urban growth area, the growth areas of T, Sioux Falls, and Harrisburg are within those. So with new petitions that we received, the first step was that staff worked with the applicant to meet with those communities. Staff, and then after that, staff also attended the planning commission and the city council meetings for those applications. So it wasn't in the past like we just would have a staff recommendation. No, we went through the process with the applicant to do that. And then, like I told all of the cities, is that not here to tell you what to do. Don't care if you recommend approval or denial. We're going to forward with what your recommendation is. And with that, after that, then the next step was we did a neighborhood meeting. So we invited all the people that would get notified through a typical petition, and we had a neighborhood meeting on site. And a lot of those things that I think they're very valuable. And if you notice throughout the applications or petitions, there wasn't anyone that came to the planning commission public hearings or the county commission public hearings except for one of those. But a lot of the things that we learned as staff attending those neighborhood meetings was a lot of the neighbors said, because a couple of those applications we'd gone through the process before, they'd petitioned before, is that a lot of the citizens or the neighbors told us that, we don't feel like we're getting our questions answered. And I explained to them, well, through a public hearing process, it's really open for public comment. So if you have questions about the applications, it's good to reach out to us. So a lot of the times, and a lot of confrontational ones that we had previously, they said, as long as we answer the questions. And again, from a staff perspective, we would tell the neighbors, we're not here to convince you to be in favor or against the application. We're just here to make sure that you're aware of what the application is and what the implications of it is. And more importantly, we're here to listen to you, if any input that you have in that process. So I'll briefly go through these sides. This is just shows permit volume to date. As you can see, we're trending upward on permits. And this one's a little bit, so a lot of the things, the metrics that we do in the department would be the building permits. That's what most people are familiar with. But it's really a microscopic thing of what we do as an overall department. There's a number of other things that we're engaged in. One of the most growing things I think in the department would be customer service. If anyone's going to buy land or develop land, they come to our office first to ask what they can do and how they can use it. But those are increasing or greatly increasing within the department. So as far as what anticipate with the FY 2027 budget request, again, we're going to focus on efficiency, effectiveness, operational status quo. So I'm not going to ask for any additional employees at this time, no new vehicles or any of those different types of things. As far as immediate needs and current topics, again, I think overall the department's doing more with less, but we're finding a way to be more efficient with the things that we're doing. With that, though, we prioritize permitting in the department. But with everything, you guys know as well too, is there's a lot of things coming down the road with additional regulations that we're going to have to amend our ordinances and our comprehensive plan. But overall, we're just trying to address the current needs of the audit department. As far as long-term strategies, as far as growth opportunities, I don't mean that we're going to ask for additional employees. What I mean by that is I really think the department, and more than just the planning department, but other departments in the county, need to take a look at growth opportunities within, so that we provide opportunities for our current employees. So if they're exceeding and they're valuable, there should be growth opportunities that we have, whether it be planner 1, planner 2, building inspector 1, building inspector 2. Just a good way to run an organization. Unfortunately, we've lost some employees over the years because they've increased their earning potential or their responsibilities by going to other jurisdictions. So I like to say in government, it's not really a textbook or a workbook. It's really learned knowledge is how you get good at government service. Key initiatives, really just take a look at implementing adopted plans. Again, that's our primary responsibility. Everything circles back to the comprehensive plan. It is why we do what we do. It's why the county does what they do. Plan implementation work, again, there's a number of ordinances that we need to work on to make sure that we're keeping up with current topics and current issues. Community engagement, I think we've been really successful, with the change of zone applications with the neighborhood meetings. We're doing something that the state law just passed yesterday, that's something we've been doing for a number of years, and that's notifying our townships of any applications that we have. So we're fully in compliance with that and have been for years. But with that said, it's one thing to notify people, but it's a second thing to engage them. Community engagement part is going to the meetings and reaching out to them and those different types of things. Last thing is plan to plan. I think I've said this before, but when the county was adopting the comprehensive plan, we did a number of outreach surveys and different types of outreach with the citizens. The number one thing wasn't a land use thing that the public told us about. The number one thing that the public told us about is that communication was important. And so the number one thing about communication is, and I remember specifically many of those meetings that we went to developing the comprehensive plan. And I remember specifically individuals telling us, because a lot of it was at those times prior to the new comprehensive plan, we did a lot of ping pong. We would send things to the city, they would send things back to us. And I remember specifically citizens saying, that's a waste of our tax dollars. It's more useful for our tax dollars that there be a leader in the process, that there be someone that takes a look at the sandbox, and instead of fighting in the sandbox, that there's someone that coordinates or takes leadership of the sandbox. And I think that's one thing that overall that we're working on. But again, the comprehensive plan, it's not a document that we just complete and put on the shelf. It continually has to be maintained and improved. So the most important thing about planning is that we know who we are, that we are who we are, and that we better who we are. But the one thing that I want to leave you with is what I consider probably the fifth most important page of the comprehensive plan. And this is our growth projections, and this would be a historical basis of that. And so really what this is saying is that in 24 years from now, it would have been 25 years before, is that at that time, if current projections continue, or historical projections continue, we will be greater than Pennington County by about 30,000 people as they are today. Not saying they're going to be number 2 or those types of things, but in 24 years, we're projecting that the county is going to have double the population that it currently has right now. And so a lot of people will say to me all the time, what's the secret sauce to Lincoln County? And I say, well, location is not a detriment, but I say it's strong leadership and a commitment to long-range planning. That's what makes growth happen. That's what makes growth sustainable. So it's, like to say, proud to be a part of the department, proud to be a part of the county. I think that overall, as an organization, we do the hard today, so it's easy in the future. And that's never easy. That's hard things to do. But that's just a commitment that we have to it. So with that, I appreciate the time, and I'll turn it back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Toby. Does anybody have questions for Toby?
Toby, thank you for the report. What is the status of the joint comprehensive plan with the city of Sioux Falls for the joint jurisdictional area?
So the city of Sioux Falls just adopted, I believe, 2 weeks ago. So they've requested that we've scheduled a public hearing for the joint planning commission meeting, which will be on the 17th of March this month. And that'll be considering a recommendation to the elected officials to adopt the Shape Sioux Falls 2050 as the guiding visioning document for the joint jurisdictional area.
Thank you.
I should say another thing that I kind of skipped through there, but one kind of major change that we did this year is previously the joint jurisdictional meeting was always the second Wednesday of every month. And so I requested the staff and the planning commission to consider moving it to our regular meeting date. Number one, that just for financial reasons, so that we can save a little bit of money on mileage for the planning commission, but also just staffing wise, we have a sheriff, deputy that provides security, IT and all that. But with that, I think we had our first one last month. I wouldn't say we've streamed everything out yet, but I think it's been highly effective because it allows the citizens of Lincoln County to just come to one meeting night, as opposed to having to schedule 2 meeting nights and things like that. So, but that's been highly effective this year so far.
Question for you, Toby. Did that joint plan get a hearing in front of the Joint Planning and Zoning Commission?
That'll be the 17th.
That's on March 17th?
Yes.
So it doesn't come in front of us as a joint city council commission on the 17th, it comes in front of the planning commissions?
Correct.
Okay, all right. And then will there be built into that timeline and plan an opportunity for the respective councils and commissions, instead of it just being put on our lap and saying, yep, here you go, is there going to be a month or two for potential amendments and changes to it based upon what happens at the respective planning commissions?
Don't know on that. What I would say is the plan that I'm understanding of that we're working on is that we'll do a trifecta meeting. So it'll be Minnehaha County, Lincoln County, and the city of Sioux Falls will all meet jointly and adopt it at that time.
What my suggestion would be is that we should build into that the opportunity, well, definitely for public comment, obviously.
Sure.
But I'm going off what City Councilor Rich McCouris said. And he said, all too often, the cake comes to us already baked. We don't get a chance to change it. We just have to put the frosting on it. I'm paraphrasing, of course. What I'm concerned about in terms of the process is, it's just going to come to us and they're going to say, well, you need to rubber stamp it up or down. Those are my concerns.
Okay, yep.
Could I also ask, I know that the commission moved the data center moratorium type thing back to planning and zoning. Are you working on that as well?
Yeah, it'll be a work session on the March 17th agenda. The March 17th agenda is going to be pretty full, so.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Toby. Other questions for Toby?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any public input on the presentation?
Toby? You're still the only department head that answers your own phone.
Thank you. All right, if there's no public input on that agenda item, then we'll move on to Register of Deeds presentation. Good morning, Becky.
Good morning, Becky Vanderbrook, Register of Deeds. Mine will be pretty brief, but of course, any questions you have, I'm glad to answer. The Register of Deeds, mainly what we do is record and archive land records. These are like deeds, mortgages, plats, easements, all other sorts of documents that would affect property. We also issue South Dakota vital records, so birth, marriage, and death certificates, and we issue marriage licenses. And of course, we help the public finding these records. Of course, we print out the birth and marriage and death records that we have access to, and help people find any land documents that they need. Of course, our office is open to the public that they can search. We have, lawyers and surveyors searching themselves, but, they ask for help, and then, of course, asking the public that does not know how to look for their records. Give them that. Recap of last year. Just a few slides of our land recordings and $1 per thousand of our purchase prices. So that's like the transfer fees we collected, and then, the land documents recorded is the number of documents that we recorded. Of course, we can't base everything off of 2021 COVID. That's pretty much how our office runs, is the economy or the interest rates. We go up and down depending on those things. Of course, we had a little bit of growth from last year, but yeah, just depends on what's going on in the economy. Here's just a little of our vital records. Really no way to, it should be about the same every year, but they can go to any courthouse in South Dakota, so we necessarily don't get all Lincoln County residents coming here for their vital records. Of course, with that, we hope, customer service. I feel like we're very told that we are very, no line here, and that we, are very happy to give them their marriage licenses and vital records. We had a little bit of growth in almost everything, so that's good. What we accomplished in 2025, thankful to you, we were able to start our scanning project pretty much right after you okayed it. It was, I forget if it was like 2 weeks, and they came and scanned all our books in-house, and we sent our microfilm, and they are now working on that. We have received what they call the raw images of the documents, which is just like the first scan of them, and some of them are amazing improvements to what we already had. And then at some point, they are working on all our records, or all the records that we gave them, and they will be put into our software, so that, everything will be available digital and at the best possible image. And then, of course, we will continue to index, which is putting in the information of the documents, names, legal descriptions, dates, those things, to find the documents easier in the computer rather than just in our index books that we have in our vault. So expectations of 2026 is pretty much just everything that we were doing in 2025. Trying to finish that scanning project, and that's right now, just pretty much waiting on the company that did them to receive them. And then in our slow times, then we are putting the information into the old documents, of course, doing all our day-to-day documents and work. But if we have free time, then we are updating the old documents to be found easier by us and the public. So moving forward, we'll just be reassessing the M&P fund. That is not strictly for projects. We do have monthly and annual costs coming out of there, so we would never want to dry that up. Of course, the money coming in depends on the economy, how much documents we're recording. So we'll see what our next project would be. Just possible next projects would be to possibly contracting with a company to, we call it index, but to put the information of old documents. Like I said, we are doing it as time allows, but it would be nice to have all those documents, type in a name, find every document in Lincoln County Register of Deeds on that name or that legal description, to be able to find those back to when we were Dakota Territory to now. Another possibility, especially when all this is done, is going to our documents online, which would pretty much be the same as someone coming here and looking in our index books, but being able to do it online. Of course, I feel like it's important that all the documents that would be online are public documents that you can look at in our vault or by calling our office and paying for them. It would be a subscription. At this time, it's also talked about whether that would be available to the public or if that would just be, of course, there would be you'd have to sign up for it, and it's a possibility that it might only be available to title companies, lawyers, surveyors, things like that. The normal person does not necessarily know or understand how to look up documents by legal description. So that's in the beginning stages, but it would, all these projects are a time saver for everyone involved. Of course, my office at the Register of Deeds, hopefully when our population does double, we are too busy to even be able to update these documents, in a large manner. And when we do get requests, if we are able to bring it up at the computer within a matter of seconds, that's a big help. Of course, it's a help for the lawyers, surveyors, title companies that are looking for these documents. The public as well, if they're wanting geology searches. Right now, we usually have to say, we'll call you when we, can get all that looked up for you. And then hopefully it's also a savings to the public that are hiring these companies to look into all these things. Hopefully there's not as much labor as what there would normally be. Any questions?
Think you're doing well.
All right, any questions from the commission? If not, is there any public input on the presentation? All right.
Thank you, Becky.
Thank you.
Thank you, Becky.
Next, we have our opportunity for public comment for items not on our agenda. If there is none, we'll move on to our commission office report.
Thank you, Commissioners. Paul Anderson, Commission Admin Assistant. Just one thing wanted to highlight real briefly. Toby stole the other one, was Senate Bill 237 is the one he was talking about, codifying his office's practice of notifying townships. The other one I wanted to highlight specifically for the public, because it should be a very good bill for them. The House passed Senate Bill 154 yesterday, so it'll move to the governor's office, which clarifies that multiple outbuildings qualify under owner-occupied now. In the past, multiple outbuildings were classified differently than owner-occupied. You only got one outbuilding to be classified as owner-occupied on your property. Now it'll allow for multiple outbuildings on a residential property to qualify for that owner-occupied designation. So hopefully that's some good news for the residents of Lincoln County. Senate's wrapping up here, and I'll have a full presentation in the next week or two. That'll break down everything that passed and kind of give a breakdown on the different areas affected and all the different things that happened this session. So, thank you.
Thank you. Move on to commission reports. Any commissioners have reports they'd like to make?
Madam Chair, yesterday I had the opportunity to meet with Sergeant Kuntz, Deputies Johns and Messier. They are the school resource officers in Harrisburg School Department, and this was our school resource officer committee meeting. And it was the first one, according to them, for quite a long time. So it was good to meet with them. We met up at the Harrisburg substation for the Sheriff's Department, and I'm happy to report we had a very, very good lunch, very good discussion. The main discussion points were, number one, and this is probably the most fulfilling part, but both of the deputies report that they feel they are doing incredible work with the young people in our schools. And it's the building of relationships with these kids that creates an opportunity for diversion from potential, bad behavior, and sometimes going up to potential criminal behavior. And so they love their jobs, they love the kids they work with, and it sounds like we have a good program going up there. Sergeant Kuntz went into some of the statistics regarding calls for service and how that operates with young kids reporting things. And it just sounds like we have a great program up there, and the deputies are doing what they like. And, they reported both opportunities and challenges that they're facing. And then what we all plan to do is we're going to meet next time. We'll have a meeting within a month or two, and we'll start to incorporate the principals, superintendents, and other key people from the school districts as well. So.
Thank you for that. Other commissioners have a report they'd like to make?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
HR put on a defensive driver training. They rescheduled it from a week before because the person got sick, but that was on the 25th. And I want to thank Ashley specifically in HR for getting this all put together. And then the Kello interview was on Thursday from our last commission meeting on data centers, and both Commissioner Aaron's and I were independently interviewed. And I think Commissioner Schmidt was on air as well.
All right, thank you. Other commission reports?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
last week, Last week, we attended the Governor's Office of Economic Development Conference in Pierre, which was a two-day affair. There was a number of programs that were presented. Some of the most interesting ones was the study of populations and what countries are declining in population, what's our holding, and how population is determined. It's quite revealing that if you're going to stay in a positive one, immigration is going to play an ever-increasing role in maintaining that. So that's something for everybody to consider. I think that one of the two countries that were really showing over time was Russia was declining, and so was South Korea. America, or the United States is holding its own, and et cetera. We also talked about data centers. We had quite a lengthy discussion by several individuals concerning data centers, the hyper data centers versus the co-location. We talked about tools for economic development, for counties, for cities, for everything. We talked about community evaluations. The GOED has put out a book that has evaluated every community as to its infrastructure, its transportation, its housing, its taxation. Very, very informative for anybody that lives in various communities. And prior to that, I testified at the request to look at the governor's our governor's proposal for relief of taxes on his proposal to have a half-cent sales tax. So it did get out of the Senate, and I think it's going to be on a House floor tomorrow morning, or a House committee, I should say, sometime like at 7:30 in the morning. So anyway, we'll see how that happens. I think that's the last one that has survived so far. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other commission reports this morning?
I want to talk a little more about that ambulance service. We give $188,000 to some nonprofits, and some of them I really question. I think if we look hard at them next time, we could come up with enough money probably to help fund the ambulance service with no problem.
All right. Drew, did we need an executive session? No, no executive session. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. All right, we are adjourned.